Renovating a vintage horizontal twin-cylinder model steam engine. This is part 10 and it's time to fit the eccentrics to the engine. First of all, I'm refitting the pinch screws that I removed earlier so I wouldn't lose them. And as you can clearly see, as the screw is tightened into the hole, it displaces some abrasive from the polishing wheel, which pops out on the inside surface. As the screw goes in, it pushes it out the other end. At this stage, it's not important at all where the eccentric is on the crankshaft, as this will be set correctly later on. All that's important at the moment is to make sure that both of the eccentrics and their eccentric rods are perfectly in line with the clevis at the steam chest end. So the valve spindle, eccentric rod and eccentric are perfectly parallel to the bed plate. I will be discussing in detail the setting of the valve timing on this engine, but not just yet. I have things to do first. I have to fit the flywheels and I have to make some pistons yet. And once again, and I keep saying this, assemble the parts in oil, and once the parts are assembled, oil them again. Assembling the crosshead for this side is carried out in exactly the same way as assembling the crosshead for the other side, so I won't dwell on this. And once again, do not forget the oil. I actually did on this side, and here you see me putting it right. Refitting the big end brasses marked number 2 is exactly the same as refitting big end brasses marked number 1. The engine's looking quite good now. There's still a little bit more work to do on the eccentric rod, as I can see here, but it's coming on. What I'm doing here is replacing the oil cups on the eccentrics, and these do not need to be put on with a pair of pliers. If you do that, you will leave nasty marks in them. I usually fit them finger tight and then use a cloth to get more grip on them to tighten them even further. A quick test of the rotation is very encouraging. Everything turns over very smoothly. I'm temporarily fitting the gland nuts just so I don't lose them. I put these in the lathe and clean them up. And talking about cleaning up, I'm cleaning up the base, which is very oily and grimy, and I'm using some white spirit on a cloth. There is no point whatsoever in sanding down this base and refinishing it, because part of it has been oil soaked over the years, and it would not look good. It would be very patchy. So by the time I've gone over it with a bit of white spirit, it's looking good. In previous episodes I've mentioned the advantages of sympathetic restoration, so I'm purposely not doing too much polishing or renewal of the parts. I'm now screwing the engine to the base with the screws that were originally provided with the engine. There are a couple missing that I'll try and source from somewhere. I should be able to get these from a local supplier. At the beginning of this clip you can see just how wobbly the flywheel is as it screws onto its shaft. But when everything's together, it's really not too bad. I've had to put a bit of violence onto one of them to straighten it up, and it's straightened up okay, without protesting and without anything breaking. Although it's not finished, the engine really is starting to look good now. I have to do something about this hideous cylinder cover. This was originally anodized, then painted black, then painted blue. So at the beginning of the clip, I used a needle file to scratch underneath the cover so I know that that goes to the back. So when I refit it, it doesn't go on the wrong way round. The cover is quite rusty, so initially I'm putting it onto my belt sander, but it gets very hot very quickly and burns my fingers, and I don't like this much. And once again, I do not use gloves. I like the sensitivity of just having my fingers on there. The best way to remove the rust from the cylinder cover is to take it outside, put it across a piece of wood, and use my orbital sander to remove every bit of the rust and the scale and the remains of the old paint. It will take a while, but it's worth doing, and it doesn't get quite so hot, so it doesn't burn my fingers. And the good thing is that I will be able to retain an original part. What I will do with this is treat it to some etch primer and paint it black. Once again, thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful.